all the best sports clips from around the country. We're watching an episode of Speak, titled "Has Baker Mayfield Earned a Long-Term Deal with the Bucks?" I have some really strong thoughts on this one, but we're just gonna let the video roll and then we'll unpack it a bit. But I have some really, really strong thoughts on this one, and there's just no reason for me to change my mind as of right now.
At the end of the season, James Jones, you've been here for 6-7 months now, and you haven't heard, but your boy loves some Baker Mayfield. I truly do. Now, it's contrary to common popular belief, because I went to Texas, Baker Mayfield went to OU, but I respect what he's done. He's earned a long-term deal from my mind. How many quarterbacks have done or could have done what Baker did? Now, we have data, because Derek Carr, he went to a new team, and he didn't make it to the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers, he went to a new team, and he got hurt. He didn't make it to the playoffs. Deshaun Watson in the last 2 years, he went to a new team, and he hasn't made it to the playoffs. We have data that what Baker is doing and has done in Tampa is actually very, very hard to do. You go to a new team with 4 months of an offseason and take that team to the playoffs, replacing the objectively and undebated greatest quarterback in the history of football. What Baker has done has clearly earned himself.
This is like the dumbest start to this segment I've ever heard. He's referencing Aaron Rodgers, who got injured. So that has nothing to do with anything. Okay, that's number one. Number two, he's also now talking about, replacing Tom Brady, who was retired, who was done, who was washed, who had nothing left in the tank. So what are you talking about? It's not like Tom Brady was in his prime and then just left or retired or, got traded or signed somewhere else. That doesn't make any sense. It makes zero sense. That has nothing to do with what Baker Mayfield has done. And then he tries to paint it as, we have data. We have data for this. No, you don't. What are you talking about? That's such a ridiculous thing. And again, Derek Carr went to the Saints, a completely different organization. Baker Mayfield is playing with the Buccaneers, with a lot of the same players who Tom Brady went to the Super Bowl with and won. What have the Saints done? So again, it's just like an asinine statement to make. It makes no sense. They're two completely different teams with two different players, two different sets of players, different coaches, different staff, different everything, different schedule. So that's just nonsense. That really, really is. But Carr is at a different stage of his career than Baker Mayfield, so it just doesn't make any sense. So to say that Baker Mayfield has done something that no one else can or would do, it just doesn't make any sense. Truly. So that I already reject his, initial, opinion of it. It makes no sense.
A long-term deal, and more than anything, the numbers speak for themselves. My dog has 2 seasons in the last 4 years, 25 passing touchdowns and 10 or less picks. Only 6 quarterbacks can say that. And he's done it with 2 different franchises, 2 different offensive coordinators, 2 different wide receiving cores, 2 different coaching schemes, 2 different cities. It's hard to do. He's earned himself a long-term deal. James Jones?
I hear it. I'm a fan of Bake too. Not as big as you are, but, I'm a fan too. But long-term deal tells me this is the guy that can take us to the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
That's what a long-term deal says. Joe Burrow gets a long-term deal. They believe this is the guy that can take us to a Super Bowl and win it, right? Yep. Justin Herbert, they believe that this is the guy that can take us to a Super Bowl and win it. That's why these dudes get long-term deals. I don't necessarily think Baker Mayfield is a guy that can do that. So for me, he has played at an extremely high level. He's helped his team win some ball games. He got his team to the playoffs, and he's in the divisional round of the playoffs. But I will give him a short-term deal because when you look at this football team, it's a lot of really good players, right? Baker Mayfield really does not have to do a lot. The defense is playing at a high level. He has Chris Godwin. He has Mike Evans. He has really good playmakers around him. I believe you do a short-term deal, 2 years, 3 years, around $80 million or something. That was a Kirk Cousins deal. And now you're able to build around Baker Mayfield. You got a defensive-minded head coach. You can go over there, get some more defensive players to make this defense even better, and he can find himself in the playoffs again. But when you say
that's what I 100% agree with, and that's what I was going to say. Baker Mayfield is not someone who can carry you to a Super Bowl or that you can have trust that he's going to make a Super Bowl run. He is not good enough and has never shown to be good enough. Can he play football? Of course. Does he deserve to be in the NFL? Of course. Does he deserve to be one of the starters in the NFL? Absolutely. But a long-term deal makes it sound like what he just said. Okay, this is our guy for the next 5+ years or so, and we are going to win. We are going to be able to make a Super Bowl run. And that's not the case. The only way you can do that is if you get Baker Mayfield on the cheap, and then you can really build a roster and you can really pay for players that are legit stars, so then you're a better team. And as I've said in previous videos, that is the formula to winning Super Bowls. There's really 2 ways to do it. You need to have an elite quarterback like a Joe Burrow, like a Patrick Mahomes, that you don't necessarily need the most elite roster, but still helps, obviously, because it's hard enough when you don't. Or you need to get a quarterback that is either elite or pretty good, but you're not paying him anything. That way, you can pay for the players around him, build up the roster, build up the offensive line, defensive tackles, wide receivers, running backs, whatever it needs to be, kind of like what the 49ers have right now and what the Eagles had the last couple of seasons. That is the recipe. That is how you can make, a Super Bowl run. But if you pay Baker Mayfield legit money and a legit long-term contract, then you're stuck. I mean, because you're not going to be able to fill out the roster and you're going to lose other players because they're going to go elsewhere for money. And Baker Mayfield is not good enough to make up for that. That is the reality of Baker Mayfield's situation. He is not good enough to make up that deficit. Again, I said this with Dak Prescott. You want to make more money than Tom Brady, not play better than Tom Brady, but you want to win like Tom Brady. It doesn't work like that. That's not the way it works, okay? If you're not as good as Tom Brady, and if you're not taking more money, a larger percentage of the salary cap than a Tom Brady, why do you think that you're now going to win like Tom Brady? You're not. You're not, okay? If you're not as good as Joe Burrow, if you're not as good as Justin Herbert, if you're not as good as Patrick Mahomes, if you're not as good as Josh Allen, but you're going to command the same amount of money as them, then why do you think you're going to win at the same level as them? You're not. You're not. It has to be relative to who you are. But quarterbacks command so much money, and this is the issue that the Dallas Cowboys have with Dak Prescott now. He is too expensive for what you're getting from him. And it's just, there's not enough money to go around. And that hurts you. And he's not good enough to get you over the hump. Baker Mayfield, does anyone really believe that Baker Mayfield can outduel Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen in the playoffs? No way. Joe Burrow? No way. Absolutely no way. Just not happening. So, and again, especially once you legitimately pay him. If you're going to pay him like real money, like a legit contract, that just really hurts you in the long term. And I just don't see how someone like Baker Mayfield can make it. And again, after that playoff win, let's make no mistake about it. The Eagles were not a good team. They played awful. They were in an absolute free-fall. They were losing to every team under the sun and got blown out by the New York Giants, who are awful. So beating the Eagles is not special here. Let's stop pretending like this is special. If Baker Mayfield goes up and punches Detroit in the face and throws for 4 touchdowns, 300+ yards, I'll maybe change my tune. Okay? If he now goes and plays the 49ers really competitively, he doesn't even have to win, but if he just plays a great game and proves I belong here, I'll change my tune a little bit. I'll say, maybe Baker Mayfield really did find himself. Just took him a few years. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. In fact, I think Detroit is going to wallop the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Baker Mayfield is not going to look elite or great. And we're going to have this whole conversation of, did Baker Mayfield, play himself out of a contract? Like, that'll be the conversations that we're having next week. It's not going to be like, whoa, didn't you imagine how good Baker Mayfield is? He was unbelievable. That's not what the conversation is going to be at all. But what do you all think? I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on this one. I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing ever, let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing, then definitely please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here. And it's turning into something truly, truly special. And I would absolutely love to see you part of it. Thanks so much, and see you next time.